All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down exactly what drives the cost of 3D architectural animations. Look, if you're a property developer gearing up for a big boardroom presentation, you already know that justifying your marketing and pre-sales budget, it's a high-stakes game. You really need to confidently pitch these 3D walkthroughs to your investors, and to pull that off, you've got to understand the nuts and bolts behind the price tag. So we're going to unpack the specific valuation factors that take a simple rendering request and turn it into a premium, top-tier investment. We hear this classic investor skepticism literally right out of the gate. And, well, you kind of just have to smile, right? Because your financial backers will look at a line item for a 3D animation and instantly compare it to the cost of your standard 2D floor plans. It's a totally natural question. But to actually answer it effectively, we need to look super closely at what is physically being built here. I mean, it's completely comparing apples to oranges. And your job is to explain exactly why this is a fundamentally different class of asset. See, a 3D animation isn't just a flat drawing or some basic representation of space. As the source material really highlights, it's a highly complex, seriously resource-intensive deliverable. When you pay for a 2D floor plan, you're mostly just paying for a specialized layout of lines and measurements. But when you commission a 3D walkthrough, oh, you are paying for an entire digital ecosystem. This requires a massive combined investment in high-end software, ridiculously powerful hardware to actually process the visuals, and highly specialized human skill and time to produce that photorealistic content. It's literally the difference between handing someone a paper blueprint and building them a fully functional virtual world they can actually step inside. So to prep you for that boardroom, here is your pitch deck prep. We're looking at 1. Sizing up your scale. 2. Crafting cinematic realism. 3. Customizing the details. 4. Process and pedigree. And finally, number 5, your investor pitch checklist. Okay, moving right along to section 1, sizing up your scale. The very first things that hit the cost of a 3D walkthrough are the property size, the property type, and the duration of the animation. Think about it like this. Rendering a quick 1-minute clip of a standard 1 BHK apartment, that's basically like shooting a simple local TV commercial. It's contained, it's fast, it just needs fewer resources. On the flip side, producing a 3 to 5 minute sweeping tour of a massive villa, one with multiple detailed interior rooms and huge exterior zones, well, that's like producing a massive Hollywood feature film. The rendering engine has to process vastly more geometry, and the animators have to design and map out way more space. So the costs scale exponentially with every single additional room and every extra second of footage. So how do you actually pitch this to the people holding the purse strings? Your pitch pivot here is to emphasize the scope. Remind your investors that covering more property types, from intricate commercial spaces to expansive residential exteriors, isn't just about showing off. Actually, scratch that. It is showing off, but it directly increases viewer engagement time. You are literally buying more time with your prospective buyer, keeping them totally immersed in your property for longer. Next up, section 2, crafting cinematic realism. Now, the level of a realism is a massive cost driver. Sure, standard renders are definitely more cost-effective. They'll get the basic idea across. But what the source text calls cinematic photorealistic quality, that demands something entirely different. Hitting this level of realism means the studio has to use absolutely massive computing power to calculate exactly how light bounces off different textures, how shadows fall naturally, and how reflections behave in real time. It's the primary driver for high-end budgets simply because it requires intense artistic precision and honestly just sheer hardware muscle to calculate every single frame. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most hidden costs in that realism, which is lighting complexity. A major factor is whether you're showing a day scene, a night scene, or both. Setting up a photorealistic day scene with natural sunlight is one massive job all on its own. But if you want to show the property at twilight, or maybe blend a day-to-night transition to really show off that architectural lighting, you are essentially asking the studio to do the lighting work twice. They have to build entirely new light maps, reposition artificial sources, and recalculate all those shadows. You are doubling the lighting work required. So here is your pitch pivot for the boardroom. Explain cinematic realism and complex lighting setups aren't just pretty, superfluous little details. No way. They are the core emotional triggers. When a space feels truly real, without warm sunset lighting pouring through the windows, it creates a psychological connection that actually convinces buyers to sign faster. Ultimately, you are investing in buyer confidence. All right, let's roll into section 3, customizing the details. Furniture and material detailing are huge variables here. Just like staging a real physical home, Dropping in generic 3D assets like furniture the studio already has sitting in their digital library is significantly cheaper and way faster. But if your project requires modeling custom, branded furnishings from scratch just to match a high-end interior designer's exact specifications, yeah, the cost is going to jump. The animators essentially have to become digital carpenters and upholsterers. They're building specific luxury sofas or custom light fixtures polygon by polygon, without getting sawdust everywhere, of course, just to ensure perfect fidelity to the real-world items. How to pitch this to your investors? You've got to contextualize the cost by aligning it with the property's price tag. Look, if you are selling ultra-premium real estate, your virtual staging materials absolutely must match that luxury valuation. If you use generic, cheap-looking digital furniture in a multi-million-dollar penthouse walkthrough, you instantly degrade the perceived value of the whole property. You simply have to spend the money on custom detailing to attract and retain that right high-net-worth demographic. Moving on to Section 4, Process and Pedigree. So the absolutely crucial point in this section is that you aren't just paying for a final file. You are paying for the operational process. A huge factor identified in the source is the number of revision rounds and change requests. Think of rendering an animation like baking a cake. Once it is in the oven, you really can't easily change the flavor. In 3D animation, every single change request, like moving a wall or swapping a floor material after the fact, means re-rendering thousands of individual frames completely from scratch. This burns through immense amounts of studio time and hardware bandwidth. Finally, the studio's experience and reputation directly affect the valuation. A highly experienced studio with a strong reputation in architectural animation is naturally going to command a premium over a cheaper, less proven vendor. But with that premium comes a proven track record. They bring efficient workflows, better hardware farms, and the seasoned artistic eye that's totally necessary to handle complex, high-stakes deliverables without totally failing halfway through. So here's how you frame this process and pedigree to your financial backers. Tell your investors that budgeting for defined revision rounds and hiring a reputable premium studio is the ultimate insurance policy. Seriously, you are paying a premium to mitigate risk. A cheaper studio might miss the pre-sales launch deadline simply because they don't have the hardware to handle a last-minute change. A top-tier studio ensures the project is delivered on time, protecting your entire sales timeline. Okay, let's bring it all together in Section 5, your investor pitch checklist. Go ahead and grab a screenshot of this right now. This is your definitive checklist of the 8 variables that dictate your quote. When you sit down with investors, you are accounting for property size, animation duration, realism level, the number of rooms, lighting complexity, bespoke furniture, revision rounds, and the studio's reputation. Boom. You're now fully prepared to justify every single dollar. Frame your final pitch around this exact thought. When you justify these 8 cost factors, you are shifting the entire conversation away from viewing this as just some painful line-item marketing expense. You're proving that this is a massive strategic value add for the entire development. By investing properly in the scale, the realism, and the pedigree of the walkthrough, you are building a tool specifically designed to secure buyer commitment before a single brick is even laid. So take a hard look at your strategy and ask yourself, are you just funding a simple video, or are you investing in the ultimate pre-sales engine?